Welcome back, friends, to another edition, a live edition of In the Trenches. And it feels like we are a sprint to the finish. There's only 3 games left. We've fought all off season for the regular season, and then the regular season gets here and it's almost gone already. So we're going to get you ready for this Northwestern game. Want to let you know what's going on with the podcast this week. Already out. I did the Monday night show Inside Michigan Football. My guest, Sharon Moore, obviously, and then I keep saying offensive coordinator, not offensive coordinator, special teams coordinator, J.B. Brown, and special teams weapon, Joe Taylor, joined me last night. So if there's any part of that or all of it that you missed, go back. You can find it on the podcast feed. And still to come this week, you all know that I have 2 more editions of In the Trenches coming out. The Thursday edition, which is Keys to the Game. And then Brian and I will also put out the post-game edition. And we know that's going to be a win against Northwestern from Wrigley Field. I cannot tell you how excited I am to go to Wrigley Field for this game. I wish I had a chance to play on the field. I don't know, Brian, I know it's going to be a tight fit for you to get there, but if you get there in time, you think we should go down there, take our baseball gloves, throw the ball around a little bit, just to say we played catch in Wrigley Field?
I would love that. It would be awesome. I'm fired up. I started in broadcasting in minor league baseball. My first dream in this industry was to make it to the major leagues, and it'll be a unique sightline game, but just the novelty. I've been outside Wrigley. I've never been within the friendly confines. My question is,
been inside?
I've never been inside. Oh. So I'm fired up. See the ivy, all of that. My question is, will they have a 7th inning stretch? They got to do something Harry Carey style, right?
Right.
Like, is that
so 7th inning stretch would have to be between the 3rd and 4th quarter.
I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
What if they had you sing?
I am all in for that. Give me that mic. Let's go.
That makes one of us.
I tell you what, obviously it's supposed to be a Northwestern home game, but I think there's going to be a heavy contingent of Michigan fans. And God, if I had a chance to do that, that'd be a dream. I mean, you've seen all the people that do it now.
Oh, it's incredible.
And so, yeah, I'll probably have to wait.
I will say,
I'll have to do something that goes viral. Maybe another graph.
Well, and we'll have to put out a press release. What was cool is talking to some people just around the athletic department coming into the season. There was comparable, maybe even slightly more demand among Michigan fans for this ticket versus the Norman trip at Oklahoma week 2. And obviously the matchup itself, no disrespect to Northwestern, but the matchup isn't quite the same, Michigan and Oklahoma. But the novelty, the uniqueness of playing a football game at Wrigley Field, there will be a lot of Maize and Blue, because also the fact that this really has been a part of the Northwestern season the last few years. They've done it before. The shine is a little bit less there, whereas for Michigan, it's their first opportunity.
It is, and it's really cool. And it's I don't know if I've ever told you this. I've talked about it on the morning show. The bucket list item I have is to go to all the Major League Baseball parks. I've been to Wrigley Field before, so this won't be my first time. Obviously, my first time watching a football game and watching my team play in this is going to be a lot of fun. And we talk about it all the time in regards to like which college football venues would you like to go to? And, we don't get a chance to do that because obviously we're working on Saturdays, sometimes the bye weeks, it doesn't matter. But in Major League Baseball, if you talk to Major League Baseball fans from wherever, it's one of the iconic venues in Major League, in all of Major League sports. And I think you're going to love it.
I'm fired up. I'm around 16
Do the
Major
leaves
League.
fall off the ivy in the winter?
That's one of your best questions ever. I genuinely don't know. I wouldn't think so. Are they real? Is it real ivy?
Oh yeah, it's real ivy.
Okay.
You think they put up fake greenery?
Maybe. I don't know if there's like some baseball rule you can't have. Oh shoot, there was a little little critter in there.
I do believe, but I'll be there early just to get a chance to walk out on the field and touch the ivy. Maybe you can find a baseball in there.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Remember that one lodge in the wall in Toronto? There's probably a few of them there in Wrigley, but no, fired up. It's going to be awesome. And let's talk a little bit about where not just Michigan stands in that game, but also where they are coming off the bye week. This is the second one. Improvement week, get healthy week in a lot of ways, John. So as we start our 7 from 77, what do you think Michigan got done? How valuable was this second bye? I know you don't like these weeks, but I feel like if there was ever a time for a second bye week, this was a really important one for Michigan.
I think so as well. And a lot of the things I covered with Coach Moore on Inside Michigan Football, I think the number one thing is just getting guys back healthy. That's probably the number one priority at the linebacker position. All those guys that played, whether they were freshmen or right down the depth chart, did a great job at linebacker. But we would love to have Jimmy Rolder back, Cole Sullivan, and obviously Jayshawn Barham. At this point, do we put him on the D-line? We keep talking about him as a linebacker, yet he hasn't played a whole lot of linebacker.
Remember that Joe Taylor word you used, weapon?
Yeah.
I think he's just a defensive weapon.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's probably the number one thing. And the other thing that I talked to Coach about is just the rhythm and the confidence of that offensive line. You've got 3 second-year players, and it can be done. It's been done before. And I know people are probably sick of me comparing it to 97, but in 97, we had Steve Hutchinson and Jeff Backus, who were second-year players, and started every game on the left side. So we've seen it done before. These guys are doing a tremendous job, but just to be able to get all those guys a little bit more, some more reps at practice, whether it's pass set, whether it's working together on double teams, I think is huge. I also think if you look back to last season, and that bye week that they had, and then it was, I believe it was right before, was it before Indiana or after?
It was
Indiana?
after Indiana, before Northwestern.
So it was before Northwestern. So Northwestern is the victim of Michigan.
The well-rested Wolverines.
A bye week. But it was how they came out of that bye week, and that Northwestern game really set them up with confidence on all sides of the ball. They didn't play, offense didn't play great against Ohio State. They didn't really play great all season long last year, but the defense really was humming. So this year, the only change is instead of 2 games, Northwestern, Ohio State, you've got 3 games. It's Northwestern, Maryland, and Ohio State. And I would really like to see the confidence built in this game against Northwestern, and then, just take it from there in regards to go to College Park, do what you've got to do to set up a chance for the college football playoffs against Ohio State.
Number 2 on our 7 from 77, let's talk about the novelty of Wrigley Field from the player standpoint. We discussed our excitement. There'll be a ton of Michigan fans who will be looking around wondering how in the world did this happen. We're at Wrigley watching the Wolverines play football. But for the players, there's some unique aspects of preparation. But is this one of those where maybe they're going to look back on 10, 20 years from now and appreciate more than now, where it is a playoff game, it is a must win, and they're locked in on the task at hand?
Well, I mean, one of the things I wish I did as a player was to be able to appreciate the venues that you got a chance to play in as a pro, right? It was, and my wife mentioned this to me last night. She's never been to Lambeau Field. They played that Monday night game, and I told her how awesome it is to be able to be there with no fans in the stands. Everybody's just kind of starting to wake up a little bit. But this is one of those venues where I hope the players, and I've encouraged Sharon and some of the players to this as well, when you get there, just walk out, look around, because you may not appreciate it right now because your mind is focused on the game. It's focused on Northwestern, the season, the playoffs, all those different things. But just take it in. And, we didn't have, when I was playing, at least I didn't have one, in regards to being able to take
disposable
pictures.
Camera?
Yeah. Wind it up. And then take it over to CVS to get developed. You'll see you in a couple of weeks. But I just think it's one of those moments where you get a chance. Sports has provided me the opportunity to be in a number of great places around the world. And now these players all have the opportunity to savor the moment and enjoy it while you're in it, but also to take some pictures, to take some videos, because you're right, in 15 years and 20 years, I go back to the still photos that we had of our trip to, the Rose Bowl in 97, yet I look at the videos that I took a couple of years ago when we were there to play Alabama. And, it's just being able to look back on those moments, relive them, and just, be able to show your kids, your, future wife, girlfriends, whatever it is, to be able to experience that and show them this is something cool that we did when I played football at Michigan.
And the goal is to make sure that they get the victory in that as well. Will make it the best possible memory. We'll continue our 7 from 77 here momentarily. First, though, Jon, a word from our friends at Champion Circle. Yeah, Champion Circle connects fans with once-in-a-lifetime experiences. They produce public and private events, offer club memberships, and operate an online retail store selling exclusive apparel.
trading cards, autographs, and other memorabilia featuring Michigan student athletes. To become a member or learn more about how you can support your favorite Michigan student athletes, all you have to do is visit championcircleufm.com. That's championcircleufm.com. Champion Circle is a proud sponsor of University of Michigan athletics.
All right, number 3 on our 7 from 77. Let's talk about some of the grades you gave last week when we were breaking down kind of that bye-week juncture. Starting with the offensive side, what unit needs to improve the most? Obviously, there were some good grades. You gave A- to the running backs, but you gave out 3 grades of C+ or worse among those offensive units. What group has to be the biggest jump from now until hopefully some December and January football for Michigan to have the success to keep going 1-0?
Well, as I'm sure you can expect, Brian, I'm going to take a little liberty with my answer.
Yeah, I just assumed you were going to say offensive line.
Well, I am going to say offensive line, but offensive line along with quarterback and receiver. The 3 that got the C's.
You really are narrowing it down for me.
I am narrowing it down, but it all starts with the offensive line, because if your quarterback is under duress all the time, he's not going to have that opportunity. Yeah, he can make plays. We've seen Bryce Underwood, and we saw it against Purdue with the runs. They weren't called quarterback runs. In fact, I think there was only one of his rushing attempts that was a called quarterback run. All the rest of them were either the pocket breakdown or there wasn't a receiver open. And I thought he did a really nice job of escaping the pocket and gaining yards. But I would like to see the offensive line solidify those protections so that we can show off the arm of Bryce Underwood in his decision-making. I think this defense is one that we could take advantage of down the field a little bit. And the offense is so interconnected, right? I can't say O-line and not talk about quarterback and not talk about receiver, because then once the protection is there, you've got to have that connection between the quarterback and receiver. We saw against Purdue, whether it was, just off the fingertips of Donovan McCulley or just out of the outreach, arms of Andrew Marsh. There were big plays there that were to be had. So if we can get protection, and I really do believe that this passing game is just about to take off. We'll see more of what we saw against Washington than what we've seen since then in the passing game. But it all starts with, you've got to keep the quarterback clean.
I keep going back to that Washington game. When you talk about the true upside of having everything come together offensively, that's the template. It obviously needs to be even better if Michigan is to take care of business in the game here in a few weeks, but it is possible. Defensively, you were much more friendly with your grades last week. The 4 defensive units, lowest grade you gave was B- to the safeties. Amongst the rest of the groups, we'll put in defense, special teams, even coaching staff. What in that side, away from offense, must be the most ascending group for Michigan to get the job done down the stretch?
Well, the only thing I'll say about special teams, because we talked to JB and Joe yesterday, is just consistency. Yeah. Just be consistent, whether it's punt return, kick return, punts, just be consistent. Dom Zavada, if you get a chance to put points on the board, and I know the sight lines are going to be a little bit different. I talked about that with those fellas last night, and they're doing things at practice to help that out. But it's just about consistency. For the defense, the number one group, and it kind of goes hand in hand with what I said offensively, that defensive line group. And I know I gave them a B+. If they could play at an A level, all 3 of these games are winnable, because you've got to be able to win up front. If the offensive line can go from a C+ to B+, I don't expect A performance. I think that's too big of a jump. I mean, we would all love it. But if you could just show improvement at the line of scrimmage and control the line of scrimmage, dominate the line of scrimmage, be physical at the line of scrimmage, you're going to give yourself a chance in every single game that you're in. I do believe Bryce will be able to make plays. I think the linebackers and the safeties and the secondary as a whole will be able to make plays, but you've got to be good up front. And I feel like I'm talking, football 101, but that's how important it is to be able to win at the line of scrimmage. And if it doesn't mean you're not going to get knocked off the ball at times, but if you're getting pushed back, absorb 2 blocks so that your linebackers are the ones that are making plays. Sharon mentioned that. Those guys up front have played at a good enough level so that linebackers, we look back at that Michigan State game and Jimmy Rolder. Why was he the leading tackler? Why has he been so good all season long? Yeah, he's a good player. He's bordering on great player. But he's able to hit those gaps. Ernie Hausman is able to hit those gaps and make plays at the line of scrimmage because when they do, because the defensive line is taking care of business and taking on double teams, absorbing those blocks. And at times with Trey Pierce, I think he's been the best up front in regards to extending his arms, shedding blocks, and making plays at the line of scrimmage.
We will get Jon's full keys to the game coming up on our Thursday audio edition of In the Trenches presented by Meijer, but number 5 on our 7 from 77. Jon, let's just break down your initial read on a Northwestern team that's probably surprised a little bit. It's tough when you're in an 18-team league to really extend and pull what Indiana did last year and jump from what projected 17th in the preseason poll to being in the college football playoff. But they've already got themselves to where a win guarantees them a bowl game. David Braun has led them to 3 Big Ten wins, and their last 2 games, road games, they only lost by 7 at Nebraska, and they were in that ball game against USC as they fell 28-17. Yes, I did. No, I'm good. You talk. I'll get it.
Okay. And so, when camera on Brian the whole time, when you're talking about this Northwestern team, they are a disciplined team. You think about what they did against USC. They were in it until the fourth quarter. And at halftime, I believe it was 17-14. And I even texted Doug Karsh at that time. And I thought, hey, this is a Northwestern team that's going to give you a fight. They're physical up front. You may not have the same level of athlete, but when you play disciplined football, you're going to be in every single game. And that's where Michigan has to really up the ante in regards to playing disciplined football. I'm going to give you a couple of names defensively up front. A guy that we always talk about Michigan players on the Feldman Freak list. Mm-hmm. They've got one that was on the Freak list, and it's Anto Saka. I think he's just one of those athletes that can do special things because he's a freak athlete. They talk about his 40, they talk about his change of direction, all those different things. So he's a guy that you're going to have to keep an eye on. Aiden Hubbard, who's also a defensive lineman, linebacker, and you're going to have to help me out with this name. I'm not sure if you've gone through the phonetics of this one yet, but it's Mac Uline, or Uline. Yeah. I'm not sure how they say it, but we'll know by the end of the game certainly how to say it because he leads the team in interceptions right now as a linebacker. He's got 4 interceptions. He's their leading tackler. This is a guy that's all over the field, and offensively, they've dipped their toes into the transfer portal. They've got a quarterback who's a transfer from SMU by the last name of Stone, and then a wide receiver, Griffin Wilde. He's a guy that leading pass catcher for this team, just a playmaker. And there's nothing that he does exceptional other than the fact that he runs precise routes. And if it's a contested ball, would you watch, and I've watched most of their games up to this point, he's a guy that comes away with those contested balls more times than not. He's a very aggressive wide receiver. So, we're cut out for Michigan in regards to this Northwestern team. It's not the same Northwestern team that they played last year, and they came away with a 50-6 win. I don't foresee that one at all. This is going to be a tough physical fight.
Joe Taylor put it great when we had him on the show on Monday night. It's very similar now, college football to the NFL, where anybody can beat anybody. I don't know if I quite go that far, but a game that you would have looked at in September and said, easy win for Michigan. I don't think that's going to be the case. Getting the job done, finding a way to win, that's all that matters in this one. We'll continue our 7 from 77 in a moment, but first, Jon, a word from Modelo.
Yes, and we're in the midst of the college football season, and the Modelo Recruiter is busy scouting for the best full-time fans. And if you're listening to this, you're one of those full-time fans. You've been recruited. Grab yourself a Modelo to stay game day ready all season long, and welcome to the roster, all of our recruits. Modelo, the official beer sponsor of the College Football Playoff.
All right, obviously college football playoff conversations really starting to rev up here with just 3 weeks left in the regular season. Let's talk about the Big Ten stuff from this past week when Michigan was off. Both Indiana and Oregon survived tough road tests. IU, what an incredible catch by Omar Cooper. That is one of the best catches you will ever see. I thought we almost lost Gus Johnson there on the television call.
I wish we had.
Well, geez. Wow.
I mean,
ouch.
Just let the picture tell the story.
All right, John Jansen broadcaster critique there. All right, Oregon.
There's probably a lot of people. Any comments on there agreeing with me? Yes.
No, but there was a great comment from LW. I hope John sings better than he draws lines. I did enjoy.
It's not supposed to be a straight line.
It's supposed to zoom out and see the
But
straight
regarding
line.
that Indiana and Penn State game, I felt myself flipping back and forth as to who I was rooting for. Obviously, for Michigan to have a chance at the Big Ten title, which it seems like a long shot, which it is, you need Indiana to lose. Yeah. And when Kirk Cignetti originally took the job and his whole comments of, hey, if you don't know me or if you don't know if I'm a winner, Google me, like they kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But every time I listened to him talk, and his those two questions that he gets asked on the sidelines pregame,
like right before kickoff,
he is so good. His answers are, I just think they're great. I'm starting to like him as a coach, as a leader of young football players. If you're looking at it from just strictly a football fan. And then I'm also looking at it as Penn State, and you guys all know how I feel about James Franklin. He's no longer in the Big Ten. I thought it would be very appropriate for one of the reasons he was dismissed from his position was he couldn't beat a top 5 team. And I was rooting for Penn State to beat a top 5 team shortly after he was relieved of duty. But that wasn't to be had. But what a great game.
Oh,
what
tremendous.
An unbelievable game. And that's the thing about whether we're talking about Penn State and their ability to, wreck a season for someone. They almost wrecked Indiana's season, or at least put a dent in it. You look across, all of college football, and I forget, I think LSU plays Texas A&M, or LSU has somebody at the end of the season. Maybe it's Georgia that they play at the end. No, it's Georgia and Georgia Tech. Anyway, LSU had their last game was against somebody that has hopes of
Oklahoma.
being Oklahoma.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
But it's those teams that are now without a permanent head coach that have a lot of talent. LSU being one of them. Penn State certainly, just because James Franklin's not there. Like they were thought of as a national title contender because of the talent they had on their roster. They can always jump up in any given moment and beat somebody, and that's kind of the excitement of college football at this time of year.
We were talking about this before the radio show last night. What was so cool about 2023 for Michigan during it, the first 9 weeks on the field were pretty boring.
Yeah.
Michigan went in as a huge favorite. The conversations were, hey, who's the head coach for this game? But once things started to get really serious in 2023, we all knew in real time we were witnessing history. It was something that had Michigan went on and lost a game, we would have been talking about it. If Michigan did what they ended up doing and went and win the national championship, that was not just a Michigan story, that was a national story. This Indiana Renaissance is history in front of us, not just because of the positive impacts in Indiana, but also because of how other programs are reacting to the fact that they hired Curt Cignetti, largely a name that many fans did not know about, and they've gone on to, lose 2 games, and they were to the 2 teams that played in the national championship game last year. History is happening in front of us, and the nice thing is, in the 12-team playoff era, if Michigan keeps winning, they might encounter Indiana. They'll have a chance to end that history. Yeah. So for now, I appreciate the history that's unfolding because it really has ripple effects in the rest of the country.
It does. And, we're watching that Oregon game.
Yeah.
Against Iowa. And we all know, we talked about it last week, Kinnick Stadium is a really hard place to go play. And Iowa almost came away with the win. And they had plenty of opportunities. Texas is the school that's playing Texas A&M. Texas A&M, a lot of people believe, should be ranked number 1 right now. Currently, they're 3 behind Ohio State and Indiana, but they have yet to lose a game. Texas is trying to do everything that they possibly can to put themselves in a position. So every single week, there's going to be matchups for teams that maybe have underperformed to this point, maybe even are coachless at this point, but still have the talent to go out there and upset the apple cart.
So the Big Ten's top 3 teams hold serve. Ohio State, no issues in West Lafayette against Purdue. Also, USC, as we talked about earlier, they beat Northwestern on Friday. Washington bowed out of the playoff conversation with a tough loss and some weird weather conditions at Wisconsin. This week, not a whole lot of intrigue. The 3 top 10 teams are all at least 24-point home favorites. Oregon gets Minnesota on Friday. Indiana hosts that Wisconsin team. and Ohio State gets UCLA. Also an intriguing one that could have been super juicy had Iowa held on at Kinnick at home against Oregon. Hawkeyes at USC. Trojans probably have their playoff hopes on the line. Who do you like in that one?
Where's that game being played? Is that in Kinnick Stadium?
No, that is
that's
in
out.
LA.
It's out west.
Yeah.
Boy, I tell you what, the way that Iowa plays defense. I mean, the one thing, hey, when you're going coast to coast, we've talked about these teams and how the struggles that they have. East Coast teams playing West Coast teams. They're only going 2 time zones. I don't know how much difference that necessarily makes, but defense travels.
Yeah.
And when you look at this Iowa defense, part of what gave Oregon so much trouble is they're disciplined. They make plays at the line of scrimmage. They don't miss a lot of tackles. They don't miss opportunities, down the field. They got an interception right at the goal line last week against Oregon. So, I don't know necessarily who to pick. I know my rooting interest is Iowa in this game, and I think they're going to give them everything that they've got.
So let's talk about the national topics. Number 7 on our 7 from 77. SEC, the Big Four, A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Ole Miss, they all took care of business last week. The Vanderbilt slipper still fits. They had a miraculous comeback again against Auburn, so they're still in the playoff hunt. This weekend, though, some real intrigue because there are 2 7-2 teams going on the road, roughly touchdown underdogs. Oklahoma at 1-loss Alabama, and Texas at 1-loss Georgia. We've been saying all year that, we'd like to see Oklahoma keep winning. And the reality is, if Oklahoma and Texas lose this game, you might start to see some condensing of SEC bids. If those road teams win, there is some conversation around potentially 5, 6 SEC teams getting in because the Big Ten's been a little more top-heavy.
Yeah, it has. I mean, when you look at the Big Ten, it's really 3 teams, and then you look, can we squeeze a 4th team in there? For the SEC, it's 4 or 5, and how many teams are they going to get in? What's the record going to be necessary to get in? And I think in this season, if you've got 3 losses, it's really going to be tough to get in. Another one of those games that. It's I don't know that it's really going to pique the interest of a lot of people, but it's, again, one of those teams that's very talented. Now without a coach, it's Florida going to Ole Miss. And there's been that chatter about, hey, where's Lane Kiffin going to go after the season? Is he going to go to LSU? Is he going to go to Florida? Is he going to stay at Ole Miss? This is one of those games where, Florida's a very talented team. I know it's in Ole Miss, so it's not going to be one of those rush the field moments, but just keep an eye on that one because Ole Miss, every year seems to have that one game where they're like, what happened? Is this the Saturday that it happens?
Well, the Saturday that happened for the ACC was brutal. Virginia and Cal both suffering losses at home as pretty significant favorites, nothing massive, but Wake Forest went to Virginia and won 16-9. Cal, an overtime victory over Louisville in the classic ACC rivalry. 5 teams currently tied in the loss column at 1 loss in the ACC. None of them are Miami, who many still believe could be the best team in that league. But we're talking Georgia Tech, Virginia, Pitt, who will host game day against Notre Dame, SMU, and Duke, who lost to UConn last week, but they still, I'm guessing, control their destiny. I don't know. I'm not getting into 5-team tiebreakers in the ACC because I value my time and sanity. But what I do want to mention to you is, do you know what game happened this past week too? Clemson, Florida State. Clemson and Florida State are now both 4-5 after the Tigers beat the Seminoles. So you got all this chaos in the ACC, and then 2 powers who I think are getting more money than pretty much everybody else. They both play an irrelevant game this weekend. We mentioned Pitt hosting fellow 7-2 Notre Dame. That's a playoff elimination game in a lot of ways, but ACC now in a spot where they might just be beating up on each other too much.
Yeah, and obviously if Virginia Duke, somebody's going to come out of there with 2 losses. Somebody's going to get a win. And I think it's NC State. Are they going to try and dash any hope that Miami has?
They beat Georgia Tech. That's Georgia Tech's long loss.
So it's going to be an interesting weekend, and one that is I don't think it's actually on the CW, so no one will be watching. It's North Carolina facing off against Wake Forest.
Don't let Chapel Bill get hot.
Hey, he's 2 wins away from a bowl appearance. And
the Pop-Tart Bowl would love to see Chapel Bill.
Would love to see him in the Pop-Tart Bowl as well. But yeah, so it's just way down the list of intrigue. But it's kind of that train wreck that everyone's watching that's not quite off the rails yet.
That I'm following. I'm not watching.
Yeah.
Big 12. Texas Tech, maybe they are really one of the best teams in the country. We'll see. It's got to play out, but they just wallop BYU. They out-physicaled them, outplayed them. Interesting because I think Utah, I think the perception is, and I think the ranking will probably show that they are the third best team in the Big 12, but they're gridlocked in terms of trying to get to the Big 12 championship game because their two losses are to those two teams who are now tied atop the Big 12, Texas Tech and BYU. And I don't really see either of those teams losing down the stretch. BYU finishes home against TCU, a tough one at Cincinnati, then hosting UCF. Texas Tech gets UCF at home, a bye, and then at West Virginia. The question will be, if it is 11-1 versus 11-1, will both teams get in no matter what the result in the Big 12?
It really depends on
BYU's got to play it closer.
Yeah,
probably.
It depends. How many two-loss teams do you have with, in the Big Ten? How many two-loss teams do you have in the SEC? Will determine, and what's their schedule? How does that schedule compare to the schedules of a possible two-loss team getting in for the Big 12? So I think the Big 12 is still one of those conferences that's only going to get one in. But I mean, it's you never know. I mean, I'll say chaos has ensued before and probably will again.
Over under 2.5 total teams between the ACC and Big 12 in the playoff.
Wow. I think over. I think there'll be two.
I don't know which will be which.
I don't know which will be which. I mean, again, it depends on how the chips fall. But I do think between those two conferences, there will be three teams.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. Transition time here on the show. Audio side. Can't wait to share Jon's great conversation with Michigan junior TJ Metcalf. On the audio or on the video side, we'll talk a little bit with Jack Miller here momentarily. Wanted to fire through a couple of comments first. Thanks to David for stopping by and joining us. Doug, from one veteran to all the veterans out there, happy Veterans Day. Absolutely happy Veterans Day to all those. Yes. Super thankful for all that. Nice to have a little Michigan U.S. swag. But yeah, obviously can't thank enough. It allows us to do this ridiculous show where Jon gets to take shots on Gus Johnson, James Franklin, and the CW.
I know.
Yeah.
And I was going to get to a Scott Frost shot, but we had to move on.
We do, because we do have Jack Miller. Well, why don't we start there, Jack? Rank Gus Johnson, James Franklin, and the CW without any context. Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Happy Veterans Day, everybody. I'd say CW, Gus Johnson, and then what was the third? I don't remember.
James Franklin.
James, well, geez, that is tough.
Yeah. So is it one is worse or one is better out of those three? Because James Franklin would have to be 3. I think you're right. CW would probably have to be 1.
Well, he certainly couldn't be 2 because that would mean he would beat a top 3 team. It's a trick question.
Yeah. How you doing, man?
Hey, good morning, I should say. How are you guys?
Great, man. Always appreciate you carving out some time for us during a busy week. Let's start with, we were kind of nerding out at the start of the show talking about the uniqueness of this opportunity, the chance to go to Chicago, have this team play at Wrigley Field. How are you taking in just the uniqueness of it, the opportunity that we'll all get to see here on Saturday in the friendly confines?
I think it's awesome. I'm really looking forward to it. Wrigley's obviously a historic place. That'll be exciting. It's not as if when you go to play Northwestern, you're really looking forward to the atmosphere all that much. A lot of times there's more Michigan fans in the stands than Wildcat fans. So doing something different like this and making it exciting where no matter what the records are and what the teams look like, people are going to show up and have fun. I think it's exciting. When I coached for a season at the University of Toledo, we played Northern Illinois at White Sox Stadium. I can't remember what it was called at the time. And that was just really unique. That was fun. You get a sense of how different the cultures are between the sports. Like in football, you're so locked in on game day. And then you go into a baseball locker room and there's like a bar in the corner with beer and all sorts of stuff. You just get a sense of how these pro sports teams are different. So it's something unique and cool. I think the players, coaches, and fans will enjoy.
How many beers do you allow yourself pregame?
Zero, sir. Locked in.
Yeah.
I hope it's all zero.
Yes, Jack, I'm with you. I think it's cool. And I think it's one of those unique experiences. I don't know if you did this at all while you were playing at Michigan, because it's, especially then it was more, the traditional Big Ten as it was when I was playing, except, when I was playing, they added Penn State to the Big Ten. But it's how much did you take in the moment of playing at the Horseshoe, playing at, the erector set that is Beaver Stadium?
Yeah. Try to as much as you can. And it's hard. I mean, when you look back at it, Jon, you understand this. You probably wish you would have a little bit more, because it's just so unique. And when you go back in our role now as analysts or even as a fan, and you look around and go, geez, this is really exciting. And you probably didn't cherish it as much as you could when you were playing. But those things that's why people love college football. The atmosphere is incredible, the pageantry and the tradition of all those places. And this is an opportunity for Michigan to go in and have some fun and get something a little out of the ordinary that all those players and coaches and like I said, fans will definitely remember.
Comment here from Joel, and he's got some cool history in there for those watching live. Northwestern 0-3 at Wrigley during this little stretch where they're getting ready to open up Ryan Field. But he mentions, I hope Jimmy Rolder, Chicago native Cubs fan, healthy for this game in his hometown. Kind of leads me, Jack, into the impact of a second bye week. It felt like it was coming at the right time because of the fact Michigan had some guys banged up. How do you think this one may have been a little bit different? Was it more health-based than advanced work, getting reps for young guys, because we're sitting here 9 games into the regular season?
Yeah, I think so. At this point in the season, whether they're showing up on the injury list or not, everyone's got some sort of injury they're playing through. And so the opportunity to take a break for a week and try to heal those things up and get some juice for the fourth quarter of the season, the last 3 games, that these guys had an opportunity to reset, I think, at the right time, whether it was injuries, whether it was a lackluster offensive performance against Purdue. You get to reset, recalibrate, feel a little bit better physically and mentally to get ready for this home stretch.
We did this a little bit earlier, and maybe we'll play off of your answer and ask you the other side of the ball. But out of the entire team, for this team to find success in the last 3 weeks, which position group needs to take the biggest jump in terms of improvement?
So I'm going to take that maybe a different direction, Jon. I don't know if it's from an improvement standpoint, but from making an impact on the game. I'm going to give you a weird answer and say tight ends, because I think when the tight ends have played well, when we're throwing the ball well, the tight ends have been in the mix and the offense looks in rhythm and we're doing play action the right way. We're finding tight ends over the middle. Now all of a sudden it opens up bigger passing opportunities for McCulley and Marsh. So I don't necessarily know that they, need to play better, but be more impactful in the game, be more a part of the game plan. I think if the tight ends start to get going here in the last 3 games, that opens up that offense in a way that we haven't seen besides when they get going.
It's an interesting point, Jack, because we were talking about the fact the Washington game was proof, the concept that Michigan could have an offense with upside, with the ability to run and pass. If you look back at that box score, Michigan's first and third leading pass catchers in that game were tight ends. Zach Marshall, 5 for 72 and a score. Remember, that was the Deacon Tonelli game. 3 for 38. Was Klein out? Was he out in that game, Marlon Klein? Yeah. So obviously, and Hogan Hansen's been in and out. So I think that's a fascinating answer. Do you feel like there's still much more to unlock from a tight end standpoint in the passing game for Michigan?
I think so. I think that everybody is focused on, obviously, Michigan wants to run the ball, and that's what opposing defenses are going to try to shut down. But McCulley and Marsh have really had pretty good seasons. And so all of a sudden, what does that mean? Well, the middle of the field should be open. And if you're a run-first team and want to get downhill, then the play action's there. And that benefits tight ends over the middle. And they're so versatile there. You can go down the list of 5, 6 guys that you feel comfortable about blocking and out in routes catching the ball. So I just think that when they are impactful, when they're a bigger part of the game plan, it seems to open all the rest up and just make the rest of it easier. I don't know that that's going to solve the main issue. And Jon, it's not maybe a position group as much as it is a side of the ball, which is the passing game is going to have to be more impactful to get wins against these 2 opponents and then Ohio State. So I think what I have seen is we've run the ball well at times, we haven't at times, we've thrown the ball to the wide receivers well at times, we haven't at times. We've still won and lost in those. But when the tight ends have played well, particularly in the passing game, things look like they're in rhythm.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, it's certainly the passing game needs to be a huge part. It needs to be a more balanced offense. And we know that this program, this team, especially the way it's designed, where the playmakers are, it's going to be more run-based. But you have to be able to, whether it's 8 or 9 guys in the box, take advantage of that. And whether it's play action or it's a 5-step drop, I would shy away a little bit from some of those 7-step drops just because protection hasn't been a strong point for this offensive line. But it allows you the opportunity to hit a lot of those, anything that's under 15 yards. And we've seen Andrew Marsh catch passes over that. We've seen it with McCulley as well, but they've kind of been few and far between. I would really like to see this offense. Yeah, we want to be explosive and get more explosive plays in the pass game, but if you can just loosen up that defense by hitting, whether it's a tight end over the middle or it's Marsh or McCulley on the sidelines, Jamar Browder continues to be a guy that gets more and more opportunity, and he learned a lot, from that experience against Purdue. So, it's really that 10 to 15 yard range where you're looking to convert some third downs, or you're looking to not even get into third down, but be that team that can turn those first and seconds over into firsts.
Well, and it's really about getting the ball out of the quarterback's hands quick and finding some rhythm and getting some confidence for Bryce. They tried to do that a lot of time with slip screens to the wide receivers, or even getting the running backs out into play for some screens. That really hasn't clicked all season long. And maybe that's part of going back to the tight ends over the middle, just saying that you can get the ball, play pitch and catch, feel confident, and get some rhythm to that offense.
All right. We all know what looms 2 weeks from Saturday. We all know that Michigan, to maximize the potential impact of that game, to still be in the playoff conversation, and I've been saying it since the USC loss, I would be absolutely floored if Michigan is not in the playoff at 10-2, whether or not they go to Indianapolis for the Big Ten championship game. So when does it start to creep in for both you guys? We're sitting there. It's close. Michigan's a favorite in both these 2 games. You got to stay locked in. But was there some thought about Ohio State in Schembechler Hall beyond just the what are you doing today to beat Ohio State? Was there a little bit more? Do you have to protect against that? When does it start to creep in as a potential distraction? Is it this game? Is it next week?
For the players as a distraction, I would say this week, only because during the bye week, you don't have to be locked in just on Northwestern. Sure. You can also be looking ahead to Maryland. You can be looking ahead to Ohio State, but that look ahead has to stop on Sunday. So as long as it stops on Sunday, I don't have concerns. But when you're talking about young players, like you start to emotionally and mentally prepare for playing in that game, it can have effect on how you're preparing for Northwestern or how you're preparing for Maryland, where you really have to make sure that it's not a part of any of the conversations or any of the emotions is on game day. Like when you get to Wrigley Field, or you get to whatever they call the stadium there in College Park, you've got to be locked in on that opponent.
Jack,
I agree. I mean, certainly they're thinking about this game year round and preparing for it, and particularly where the second bye fell. I can guarantee you that the coaches were definitely looking ahead and trying to figure out what Ohio State's doing well and what they're not at this point in the season. As a player, it's easier said than done, but you got a goal and a task every week to go out and play your best. And the only way you're able to do that is by locking in at the next opponent and trying to figure out what you got to do to be the best version of yourself and make your team as best as you possibly can. So, I think that last week of the season, so this year it'll be Maryland, that's always the tough one because it's right there after it. Right now you're at a point in the year where it's like, all right, we know what we got to do every week to get to that point. I think it does get hard when you get to that week 11 game, and, they call it trap week for a reason.
Well, and it's also so there's never a good thing about losing games. You lose to Oklahoma, you lose to USC. That puts you in this position where, and as I've talked to the players, I've talked to the coaches, they all have that playoff mindset. And so that will help them be locked into Northwestern, because if they were to lose this game, those goals are gone.
Yep.
And so, that having that perspective, we'd all love to be, undefeated right now, but then it raises the question more of, are you going to overlook a Northwestern? Are you going to overlook a Maryland because you don't necessarily have that sense of urgency? They have to be locked in, or else you talk about the 4 goals, rivals, Big Ten, college football playoffs, and national championship. If you're not locked in against Northwestern because you've already got a loss in the Big Ten, you've already got 2 losses on the season, those college football playoffs and national title, those go sailing away.
To close the loop, of course, historic SECU Stadium. That's Maryland Stadium.
Oh, SECU.
SECU,
yeah.
Which Southeastern Conference University? Like,
Yeah, I don't
come on,
know.
what are we doing here?
Yeah.
Wrigley Field sounds cooler.
Big Turtle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that thing is pretty cool. That's like the only cool thing.
Hey, John, what was the name of that food we ate last year or 2 years
Chessie.
ago?
The
there?
Chessie. Hey,
Yeah, that thing.
yeah.
Just-
Last year, the year before, the year before,
John
the year
shipped
before
one.
that.
John shipped one in 2 weeks ago. The Chessie, for those uninitiated, it is. I mean, it's what, 2 pounds of pretzel with crab and.
Oh yeah, it's at least 2 pounds. I mean, they give it
comes
to you
in a pizza box.
and it is. We'll have some photo evidence. Maybe we'll be able to share next week. But yeah, it is a giant soft pretzel covered with cheese, crab meat, and ooey gooey goodness, all covered in a little Old Bay seasoning.
Yep.
Yeah, that'll hopefully John makes it to Thanksgiving. He will. He
I'm a
has
pro.
Perseverance.
I'm a pro.
Looking ahead to Northwestern, Jack, we'll get your full perspective on the tailgate show coming up Saturday. But I mean, this is a team not going to be one of the biggest surprises in college football. But for David Braun to get this team to 5-4, they've played tough the last couple of road games. This is a tougher game than what I think people expected this to be. Just a cool little Wrigley Field coronation for Michigan when we started the season.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's not a cakewalk for Michigan at all. This is what you can always expect from a Northwestern team. They're disciplined. They play hard. They know where to be. They play an efficient style of football. It's the old struggle that they've had of, do they have enough Jimmies and Joes to go get it done? But they're going to play hard. They're going to play tough. They're going to play all 4 quarters. And you got to show up ready to play a team like that because they can knock you off at any point in time. I think from their perspective, look, they're going to Wrigley. It's not it's a home game, but they're not at home. And going to be a lot of Michigan faithful there. And for them, there's no expectation. And they can cut it loose and try to play the best that they can. And everyone wants their shot at Michigan. And so Michigan's going to have to come prepared with a team like Northwestern that plays a good style of football. Sometimes they just don't have enough talent to get it done at a super high level.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the game that they played against Penn State when Penn State was still in it. That's the effort that you're going to get in Wrigley Field on Saturday. That is the execution that you're going to get. And I thought an interesting stat as I was going over a bunch of stuff for Northwestern is they're 6th in the country right now in time of possession. They possess the ball for on average, over 33 minutes a game. And they've had some games where they've possessed the ball 35, 36 minutes. So it's going to be imperative, to your point, Jack, in regards to that passing game. There may be some time in that game, if you get into the 3rd and 4th quarters, where you're going to have to strike quick. You're going to have to be able to score quick. And some of the scores and time of possession doesn't tell the entire story. They're a disciplined offense. They go on some long drives, but their defense also gives up some quick scores. So that all plays a part of it. But if you're a team that they're going to come in and try and say, hey, we're not going to let the running game beat us, which I 100% think that's going to be the game plan for Northwestern, is try and minimize the running game as much as possible. Now, all of a sudden, it's Andrew Marsh, it's McCulley, it's the tight ends, as you brought up, and it's the play of Bryce Underwood and the ability to connect with those receivers down the field for some quick strikes.
Here's the other thing I think, too, big picture for Northwestern. You've seen it now from Vanderbilt, Virginia, Stanford, good academic schools that have boosters behind them that have found a way to get this NIL thing rolling in their advantage. So Northwestern hasn't done it, not saying that they will, but the table is open for them to maybe find a way to get some momentum and get back into the picture of being able to compete long-term in the Big Ten. We'll see how they do with it, but I wouldn't be shocked as I looked around the rest of college football to think that might be a possibility for them long-term.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Harvard, Yale next.
Yeah, you never know.
Great ride. It's the I got
Nothing.
You got into Harvard and Yale, right?
It
was just Michigan was the dream school.
The acceptance was lost in the mail.
Sure,
yeah.
I think the application was too.
Yeah, it was.
To that point, before we let you go, Jack, and always appreciate the insight here, the overall landscape of college football. We've heard several players over the course of the season tell others in press conferences, hey, it kind of feels more like the NFL. There's so much parity. How would you assess what you've seen, storylines that have stood out to you nationally? And give us, who do you think right now would be, I don't want the top 12, but the top tier of college football teams right now? How would you break that out?
I think it's a fair assessment to say there's a lot of parity. I don't know that there's been, just as a casual observer to it, that there's been a lot of great college football this year the way we had seen it in the past. Obviously, OSU is incredibly talented. Have they been tested yet? I don't know. Indiana, I kind of thought Indiana was a cute story last year, but then to go into Oregon and find a way to win, and then to have really a letdown game against Penn State, still find a way to battle back at the end, and those players performed like that under pressure, under 2 minutes, no timeouts, and they looked like a really legitimate team. They're up there. I think Texas A&M is really, really strong. Going into Notre Dame early in the year, what does that mean? We'll see what the committee thinks about it long term. And then Bama, kind of the same thing. Bad first loss against Florida State, but ever since then, doing what they need to do to get it done. Then the rest of them, Georgia, Ole Miss, Oregon, Notre Dame, Texas Tech, I think they're really dangerous. I think any of that top 10's got a really good chance to make a run late in the year. I'm a big fan. I don't know if you guys saw on College Game Day that Coach Joey McGuire at Texas Tech. I'm a big fan of them. I think that he's got a great culture and a good thing running down there. And you never know what these teams can do if they click at the right time down the stretch. There's a lot of good opportunity for anybody to make their mark this year. I don't think that it's a shoo-in that anybody's going to be the national championship or the national champion at the end of this thing. So we'll see. There's a lot to be determined. I think the next couple of weeks there will be a lot to see for sure. I mean, I think Bama, like I said, a bad first loss, but ever since then, just kind of steady been going and getting better. And they're playing Oklahoma this week. If they get a win against that, then they don't play anybody. I don't know who it is next week. And then Auburn's not that good this year, and they're going to roll in pretty hot to things. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm really interested to see how it ends up, obviously, between Michigan and Ohio State, and then where Indiana falls. I mean, there's still a side of, I think, most people that go, yeah, it's Indiana. Can they do it? But boy, they've impressed a lot of people so far this year.
Yeah,
and they're a program that in a realm where I do think there will be some conference championship games that might not have the same type of juice anymore because there's not even an auto bid. If Ohio State and Indiana play 12-0, 12-0, neither of those teams are falling out of the top four. Probably so that's not even a bye. It's just for the Big Ten championship game. But that matters at both schools, like it would Michigan, but it really matters at Indiana. If they you win a Big Ten championship.
They would 100%. Love that. I mean, that place would be rocking for them. There's no doubt about that.
The Texas Tech thing's interesting because I've always said I don't know if you want to necessarily be number one in NIL. You want to be competitive, but not like you're just the bank. Texas Tech's found a really unique way, and it's not just they've done it in basketball, they've done it in baseball. They went to the Women's College World Series championship in softball. They've found something there to where, yeah, we got the money, and then to your point about the culture. They might be one of the most talented teams in the country. I don't know how well tested they'll be, but to me, they might have the widest range of potential outcomes in the CFP.
Yeah, Texas Tech, Ole Miss, for those teams outside of the four that he talked about, and I'm with you. I think those four are a tier above everyone else, especially the way that Ty Simpson has responded to that first loss, the quarterback at Alabama. I think he's had a tremendous season. But after that, you're talking about teams like Ole Miss, who lost to Georgia, and Georgia – that beat Tennessee, but you're kind of looking at it going, should they have won that game? Should they have not? I think there's a lot of teams with one loss, and Texas Tech, Oregon being another one. Oregon at the start of the season, in fact, maybe a couple of weeks into with Dante Moore at quarterback, there was a lot of people that thought this was the year for Oregon. And then you watch them play, obviously, against Indiana, dropping that game at home. Then you see them go on the road, and we all know how tough Kinnick Stadium can be, but it just didn't look like they were. I don't necessarily want to say a playoff contender, but they're in the mix of, because there's 12 teams, they're in a mix of being in the playoffs. And if they play well enough, because I think Dan Lanning is a terrific coach, they could be in the mix for winning a national championship. So I think the field is wide open, but I think I'm with you in those top four teams, and I'm just not sure how real Texas Tech is.
They could go to the Final Four. They could lose by 30 in the first round. Yeah. Depends matchup and all that. By the way, guys, November 22nd, a week from Saturday, Harvard at Yale.
Ooh.
Lock in. Mm-hmm. Jack, appreciate you, buddy. We'll talk to you this weekend. Always thankful for the time you give us.
Good to see you guys. Go Blue.
Yep. There's Jack Miller. A couple of comments to get to before we wrap things up. Patrick F. asking, got in late, big RPO game coming against Northwestern. And similarly, David, watch out for Jordan Marshall. He is arriving on the scene. Jordan Marshall is the November bad weather back. Now, weather's looking pretty good compared to about a foot of snow that some places in the Chicago area got. But thoughts on a run game. We've seen Michigan will be unapologetic about if they feel like running the football over and over will get them a win, they'll do it.
Yeah, they will. And, this is where I look to Chip Lindsey and Sharon Moore in regards to game plan. Yeah, we want to be able to throw the ball, but to win, you're going to have to be able to run. And to run with this group of offensive linemen, they've done a better job in some of the reads that they've had, but this should be a downhill team and gap blocking, whether you're pulling a guard or you're using Jalen Hoffman, Max Bredesen as your counter, trap blockers. Like, they have a lot of different ways that they can get it done. But to me, the more gap schemes that this team runs, the more successful they're going to be in the running back in the running game. And it also leads to what Jordan Marshall does best, and that's running between the tackles downhill. He can break it. We've seen it. And he's also, I don't know how many rushes he's going to get in these final 3 games, but I do think it's going to be somewhere in the realm of 20 to 30. 30 would be
per game.
Yeah, per game.
Yep.
And so he's going to be the bell cow. Justice Haynes, it's as far as we know, is not going to be available for the foreseeable future. So Jordan Marshall is going to have to be that bell cow, and I like it because he's built to withstand that type of beating or deliver that type of beating.
25 carries against Washington, 15 at Michigan State. Remember, that was the game Justice Haynes played. 25 in the win over Purdue. So, 20 plus, pretty safe guess there. Thanks to Mike M. That's a new name, so we appreciate Mike tuning in. Adam, Go Blue, and then John. Love the show, guys. You all are the gold standard. Always a great list. And Go Blue from the great state of North Carolina, where Michigan basketball will play a team from there tonight at LCA. Tickets still available. I'll be curious how many people will be out there with a 6:30 Tuesday night tip-off, but always fun to see the Hoops team out there at LCA. And a good matchup. 8 days to wait. Kind of a football-esque schedule here for the basketball side. But, John, what's your breakdown of the matchup? What do you think about the Demon Deacons?
I don't think about them.
Come on.
No football on Tuesday. I don't care about Maction. So I'll have something to watch. It'll be on the TV at 6:30.
There you go. All right.
Obviously, I'll turn the volume down.
Sure.
And turn on the radio.
Sure you will. Yeah, if I wasn't here, it'd be like, nope, Jason Benetti for me.
Nah, come on, man. You and T. Mills, let's go.
T. Mills is doing a lot of work to earn that. But yes, we do encourage you to check us out here tonight, 6 o'clock for the pregame tip-off. Shortly after 6:30, we'll have Defend the Block on the podcast feed shortly after the game. And a busy week on the podcast. John's preview of Northwestern, Conquering Heroes, more Defend the Block. It's a busy but fun time of year. Any parting thoughts, Jonathan?
Well, Brian, didn't
kind of threw you off there.
Was on the show, yeah.
Maybe one day.
Name, yeah.
Maybe one day.
No.
We'll bring her on tomorrow.
No. Yeah, I mean, the final thoughts are, I think, I know a lot of people that are listening or watching right now are going to make that trip to Chicago. Enjoy it. And this needs to be a physical Michigan win. That sets us up to go to College Park, and it certainly sets us up to welcome the Buckeyes to Ann Arbor.
Can you just read David's comment there to wrap us up?
Jonathan. Yes.
For Jonathan and David.
Although he spelled it wrong. I don't have my glasses on, but is that an A-N at the end?
Oh, you O-N?
Yeah, I'm an O-N. Sorry, bud.
Well, I'm Brian Bush with 6 letters in the last name. He's Jonathan with an O-N at the end. Thanks to all who made it possible. Thanks to Jack Miller, who spells his name as you would expect. And we'll talk to you tonight from LCA. Thanks for watching.